Back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, we do have Mr. Bala Mohammed, the governor of Bauchi State. Thank you for coming on this morning, Excellency.
Thank you.
Well, let's start off with this national livestock transformation. We understand, yes, NEC decided upon it. They came to that decision. They agreed among themselves, the modalities, how it needs to work. But help us understand this. First of all, has your state, you're not one of the pilot states, are you?
No, we are not one of the pilots, but having seen that we are in that part of the savannah and in Nigeria, and of course we have most of the pastoralists in our state, we indicated our intention or our interest in the program because we believe some of the mistrust and suspicion surrounding the very nice program could be assuaged, and of course we will participate in a manner that will bring the best in terms of global best practice. We are engaging the Netherlands and other countries to come and help us do this in a manner that at least it will boost our economy. We have so many reserve land and we have so many forests that are not being used. Some of them are even being used by criminals, hooligans and charlatans, where some aspect of criminality has been provided by that forest that is called Lamebora Forest and the Yankari precincts. So outside the agitation or advocacy of the environmentalists and those that are more concerned with the fauna and flora, we will be able to provide a salutary effect to the country because we have over 3,000 square kilometers of land that is in the savannah, in a lush vegetation that can be used for this kind of program, even to serve the nation. And while we are doing it as the federal government has conceived it, we want it to be private sector driven, and we will bring those who are more familiar with it.
Okay, if you say, because I mean, everybody, we want to see that these killings end and there's peace and then people go about their businesses peacefully. Everybody wants to see that. But when you say that you want it to be private sector led, we understand that the government is going to provide 80% of the funding, the state to provide 20% and then provide the land.
Yeah.
How is that going to be private sector led?
The government have not released any cover for that purpose up to this moment, but we don't know since we have not been admitted into the program. But certainly we have been working very hard to see that because our people are mostly transhumans and that we have this vision to create an economic nucleus around livestock. And of course, with all the value chain that we can get around livestock, the blood, the horn, the skin, and of course, we will try more to cultivate that culture in our people, while at the same time bringing the Fulanis in one fold and try to arrest their traditional practice of moving from one place to the other. And that is very big, an uphill task. But I think we can communicate with them more, because to them they don't have borders from Cameroon to Nigeria.
But that's the thing, Your Excellency. How do we ensure that those who will be participating in this federal government largely funded program will be Nigerians?
In terms of the funding?
No, in terms of
the operations.
Operations. You said to bring in the Fulanis together. We have Fulanis from other countries
the issue
as well.
of misconception, I said there is a lot of mistrust and misconception with regards to the Fulani man. The Fulani man is a global or an African person. He moves from the Gambia, from Senegal, and his nationality is just a Fulani man. And as a person, I may have my relations in the Cameroon, but they are also Fulani men. I have relations because from the maternal side, I'm a Fulani man. And that is why we want to educate people. A Fulani man sees himself as a Bayelsan, as somebody coming from the Niger Delta, because he speaks the Niger Delta language, which you and I don't. And of course, we would have to just take this as part of our own heritage, something that is African, and that we cannot just close the border and say the Fulani man is just a Nigerian or this. No. In most cases, the crises are precipitated by those outside Nigeria. When there is a reprisal, it is not the Fulani man within Nigeria that causes it. It is that culture of getting revenge, which is embedded in the tradition of the Fulani man, that attracts reprisal from all over the world.
If I understand it, does that mean that those Fulani men who are maybe domiciled in other countries who move around, they can come into the country and this plan will accommodate them as well?
Yes, that's what we want to do. But it has to be done through sensitization, telling them you have to buy in the project. And you use the language, the culture itself to be able to convince them. Away from the mistrust where the whole system of transhumance or pastoralism is criminalized. Criminalization of pastoralism is the problem that we have with this project. And it requires people with passion who understand them and who they believe in, people like us from that part of the country, to say, yes, we have this. Because today there is no limit to the accusation that this and that has happened and it is the Fulani man who caused it. There is no tribe that is not, that you don't have this criminality in. But certainly the way and manner we do it is really exacerbating the crisis and the problems.
Will there be any form of documentation of all the people that will be,
yes, we are
within that?
Oh yes, that is going to give Nigeria the opportunity to really have the best in terms of documentation in the demographics. Because, as I said, a Fulani man settles anywhere he can feed his cattle. And so, if they are put in one place and they are made to understand that this is to save them and their animals, they are exposed to the vagaries of the forest and what is going on, cattle rustling, killings and what have you, and that's why it is important for them to understand that staying in one place is good. And of course, in terms of the best practice of carrying the meat, the cows and the lorries.
Let's stay with that security angle for a bit. Is there going to be, this plan going to be a fenced enclosure where anyone who comes in is secured, so there is no one that can just come in from anywhere else?
No. It is going to be a colony, and a colony does not require a fence.
You will understand
it is not going to be a prison.
You will understand the reason why people are concerned, because of all the security issues that have been happening over time. So if that's...
These forests are there anyway. If you don't occupy them and create a colony out of them, they create places for the criminals. And today, that's why you have the Sambisa forest, because it is not being utilized.
But Your Excellency, much as yes, I mean, they are fantastic. We have met a lot of them who are Fulanis as well. But the concern too is, why should federal government use resources for this country to accommodate Fulani men who are not Nigerians?
You see, as I said, we are already accommodating them. Do you delineate and then really know who is not a Fulani man from Nigeria? They are all Nigerians, because I said their identity, their own citizenship is Nigerian, even though we have relations all over the world, all over Africa. And so, presumably they are Nigerians. I think you get me. That is the misunderstanding. They move from one place to the other, and they have relations, kith and kins in all the parts of the country, and even outside the country. So that is why our own population is fluid. You can certainly not say this is the population of Nigeria.
So these issues was raised these same issues were raised in NEC, and NEC admitted and accommodated all of these concerns and said, yes, we will do this.
All these issues, there were some, you see, when decisions are taken, you don't give a dissenting view. It is a decision that it should be done, and state will look at its peculiarities and what it wishes. So for some of us, we think it's a very good thing. We can even say we will accommodate all the Fulanis in Bauchi if you want, and then we'll be taking their meat and their products to you, and then we'll make a lot of money.
Okay, to your 100 days.
Yes, but
time is flying.
No, let's just transit, maybe a little smoothly. How will this plan help the Bauchi meat factory?
Thank you very much. We have a Bauchi meat factory that has become comatose. We had stores and we have facilities all over the country to Lagos and Port Harcourt, but it was abandoned. And we believe we have ranches that were owned by the government. That's why I said the private sector must come. And then, of course, all the facilities, water, and the new grass that we are trying to develop using the Chinese technology, that it doesn't die, and then it boosts the protein content of the animals. So we believe Bauchi Meat Factory can serve the protein needs of the country by really preparing the meat, and all the T-bones and whatever steak and that we can send to the hotels and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the animals are there. The Fulani man will know that he is getting value for money for his products. The only problem is the issue of making sure there is grass. Once the place dries in during the dry season, they will move. And that's why the issue of grassing and the rest comes in, and we need technology to do that.
Okay, we need to go to break, Gaia. So we'll come back and delve into governance in Bauchi State. That will be in a moment. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Makarahuta is one out of many communities in Bauchi State that host internally displaced persons, and these IDPs have since integrated with residents. The Northeast Development Commission, led by its chairman, retired Major General Paul Tarfa, is meeting with the IDPs to know their plights and what their immediate needs are.
We want the government to provide a skills acquisition center for us and teach us vocations that will make us self-reliant.
Bauchi State boasts of being the safest in the Northeast region, and as a result, it provides a safe haven for IDPs. In a bid to improve the living standards of these IDPs, the state government organizes a session to show the commission the peculiar case of Bauchi being host and its impact on the state resources.
We have high rates of illiteracy, we have high rates of poverty, and then the influx of the IDPs and the instability in the whole sub-region had only exacerbated the problem. Youth restiveness because of lack of employment. Government is the largest employer of labor, which is part of what this administration is trying to tackle, trying to create alternative means of employment for young people.
The team is also paying a courtesy visit on the governor of the state, who says he is concerned about the future of the displaced persons.
We don't even get multilateral assistance because we are not the theater of war, but we are carrying the brunt on us. I want you to do justice to us. We cannot drive these people away. And we are only getting from the Federation account.
The Commission's chairman reiterates his commitment to partnering with the state government to make things better.
We are keen and ready to key into your plan, which will be integrated into the Commission's master plan. The Commission will soon engage your government, Your Excellency, on all operational issues towards creating symbiotic relationship.
This commitment to Bauchi State will also be felt by other states in the Northeast whose people are either victims of insurgency or those taking refuge with their neighbors. Hajera Aliyu, Channels Television News.
Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We are speaking with His Excellency Bala Mohammed, the Governor of Bauchi State. Well, Your Excellency, at the assumption of office, you did promise to reduce poverty, create a lot of jobs, and encourage a lot of people to participate in governance. So we'll see how much of that we can cover. But tell us, what exactly have you done in this regard?
Well, what we have done first is to really take a baseline study of Bauchi. Bauchi has suffered so much. I don't want to politicize the issue of bad governance. People were deceived and deluded, and they came in their thousands, and I thank channels and other media for helping us to sensitize the people. And my election came as a godsend. And so I was filled with a burden that I must do things differently in terms of deepening good governance. So we arranged with some professors and other consultants to take a baseline study of Bauchi. What are the problems and challenges? Where are we and where would we go in the various sectors? The education, Our schools have been blown up for the last 3 years without any repairs. Our secondary schools, you cannot afford to stand there. Our hospitals, they are just like death beds because you catch more sickness in the hospitals. We have barely 40 doctors in the state.
Yeah, you say you have 44?
Yes, that is
in
40.
In the entire state?
In the entire state. Because there were so many ghost workers. Even in our PHCs, we have 700 on our employment. The PHCs are not working. The donor agencies like UNICEF, Melinda Gates Foundation, Dangote are trying. But because there is no delivery, there is no service delivery, and then definitely people have become despondent. They were dejected and withdrawn to the issues of poverty. And so when we came, we decided to take a baseline study. What would we do? What are the problems and challenges? And that's what we did. And we are tackling one after the other. We discovered that even little as counterpart funding for us to access national and international interventions were not given. And so when I came, I had to rush here to TED Fund, to UBEB, and we were able to get about 10 billion naira that were lying there all this while, just because of about 491 million naira that was supposed to be given as a counterpart funding, which we could have taken as a loan from any bank. And today, we have taken an inventory of our problems.
Okay. How is this addressing I understand you have about 1.3 million out-of-school children in Bauchi. That's the highest in the state.
That's the highest in the country. And in my local government, Al-Galeri, the highest. And so we came, it is just about taking it to the national portal, to the understanding of the global community. We have accessed this money. We have gotten about 5.3 billion naira from UBEB, which we are going to renovate the schools, because the cluster or the teacher to student ratio, and then of course student to classroom ratio is so poor, up to 500. So even if the children wish to go there, it will not be possible. We must build new schools, and we must also renovate the ones that were blown up. And so we accepted, we thank UBEG, Universal Basic Education Commission, for coming to our aid after we satisfied their procurement plan. Now we are in the batch of making sure all the schools are there and then building new ones. But the issue is BESDA. How do we access money and resources to be able to mop up all these children? They are coming not because of poverty alone. Yes, there was poverty. Salaries were not paid. Gratuities and pensions were not paid. And so parents cannot afford to take their children to school. In addition, we were bombarded by the demographics, the reality of Bauchi, which is a sanctuary for all the insecurity connected with the state that are contiguous to the state. Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa. People move in thousands. Ours is not about IDPs, about people moving in terms of immigration. They have settled down with their kids and with their families, and no school, no hospitals. The facilities were overstretched. We approached the same UBEP, and they were able to give us a World Bank facility called BESDA, a program about $6 million, which we will use to mop up all those out-of-school children. First, through sensitization, telling them they should trust government. They should send their children.
How are the parents going to afford sending their children to school? Will the school be free?
Yes, no. We are declaring emergency on education. We'll declare that. Maybe you are preempting me, but certainly we want to make basic education free in Bauchi. But before then, we have to pay salaries. We have to pay pension, even gratuities that were supposed to have been paid by virtue of the bailout provided by the present administration have not been paid. We have a backlog of 27 billion that have not been paid, and we got about 47 billion. So everything is about corruption, misplaced priority, the way things are done. And so we have started paying salaries, and we established trust with the workers. There must be respect for labor. And so we are paying salaries on the 25th or 26th. And we are paying it alongside their own pension. And at the same time, we have come up with a very robust cash flow arrangement where we are paying about 200 million every month for gratuities. Because gratuity is the only takeaway any worker would have at the end of his career.
How do you deal with the ghost workers?
The ghost workers, the prevalence is too much. Because of what happened, all along, our salaries have been increasing. Even though the personal emolument of the state has not increased in terms of getting new intakes through employment, transfer, or promotion. It is static, and yet the salary is somehow increasing. We are paying about 7 billion in Bauchi State without corresponding increase in employment and the rest. So we have set the machinery in motion. We are getting assistance from the global bodies, from UNICEF, from UNESCO, and of course our own inbuilt consultants to make sure that we deal with these ghost workers. First, by improving the integrity of the nominal role. Each local government chairman must come up with the list of his workers. What a practice they had, if you leave service, they just engage about 3, they call it replacement, which is illegal. And because they have centralized the nominal role and the payroll at the center, the local governments were not in charge of the nominal role. And so anybody could come to the computer room and impute any information on the personnel in terms of salary and skills. You know, somebody on level 10, if you give him step 15, he will be around level 16. And so that's what is going on. For someone like me who has civil service experience, we are using this to make sure that we weed out all these ghost workers, not only in the local councils, but also in the state, and of course the PHC, where we are paying about 700 million and we are not getting value for money.
Let's stay with the education for a bit. How does your plan for education, especially the basic education you talked about, how does it expand to the rural areas?
Yes, I told you that we are able to access about 5 billion from UBEC. There was a storm in Bauchi 3 years ago. Most of the schools were blown off. We don't even have teachers. UNICEF was trying to help us have trained teachers. If you don't have teachers, you cannot even have the quality of output of products or graduate that you require. And so we are working with the federal government and other agencies to make sure we train teachers. We just employed about 1,000 female teachers that were trained by UNICEF. Last administration, they were lying down, they were not employed. They have also established 3 schools for female, for girls, which were not open. We are opening them. And so we are working to make sure we mop up the out-of-school children by providing facilities. Just recently, the federal government came to Bauchi, being the headquarters of Northeast, with due apology to Borno, to establish an ICT-driven school. There will be a school for schools because there will be mentoring teachers. They will deepen the provision of ICT education where people will be able to teach themselves leveraging on ICT. And the Minister of State came to Bauchi, and we are very grateful to the federal government. It will cost about 1 billion naira to do that school. Such things we are going to partner with the federal government. As I said, we have taken a baseline study of where we are and where we want to go. These schools were established for the last 25 years or 30 years. We have to increase the number of schools that we have in Bauchi, and we don't have the resources. There is so much money that we have taken from the federal government as loans. You know, we are number 4 in the country in terms of loan debt exposure. And that's what brings the issue. Our debt profile is so huge. So much money has been taken. Even the agricultural loan that we took, we have not done anything with it. There is nothing to show. Well, that is another story. But certainly we must be able to
agriculture is synonymous with rural development.
Yeah.
How is that?
That is the area we are going to work so hard, because it does not require so much education to increase productivity in agriculture. But the most important thing is not just about farming and produce and having the produce, but the processing, the value chain. We are working with a lot of bodies and organizations to make sure we incentivize the private sector to come and build, to come and really produce more of our most cherished products like sesame seeds, cowpeas, and the rest that are required globally. And we have just gotten a very good proposal from Heritage Bank akin to what happens in Zamfara, where we'll access about $1 billion from the African Exim Bank, where we will have off-takers. We have launched our own agricultural policy, where we have identified some produce or product that will really build value chain around it. And of course, with our relationship and exposure to African Development Bank, my friend Adeshina, and all the friends I have in the world, we are going to make sure Bauchi has come as a model where private sector will be incentivized. I want to invite every Nigerian from all walks of life, from the west, from the east, everywhere to come to Bauchi.
Okay.
Because we have taken the land resource. Because the land tenure is very important to make it available to all of us, and even the international community.
Okay. Take us through because one major issue, one major infrastructure that will help farming or agricultural, investment in any state of Nigeria is rural infrastructure, roads in particular.
Yeah.
Urban, rural, roads and all of that. That's usually a challenge.
Yeah. For your information, when I came at the nick of time when federal government had given us a refund of about 14 billion, which was sold to Central Bank of Nigeria, and we got about 11 billion. You remember the story, the EFCC, I must thank them, they stopped that money being just expended overnight. And we are using that money, in addition to the loans that was furiously taken, about 5 billion, to make sure we procure some roads in the rural areas. About 17 billion is going into this, and we have paid enough money to make sure we produce. But then we are also happy with the federal government because there is a World Bank project called RAM, which is going to provide about 500 kilometers of road. What we are doing is to reconceptualize the project in a manner that it will have double asphalt on it, double lay roads, not the kind of deeply road that we had, which is just laterite, and by the time it rains, the way it is raining, it will be washed away. And so I'm here in Abuja to further discuss this. We are going to have about 300 kilometers of road in Bauchi. That is huge, considering the abandonment and the neglect.
I understand you paid 50% to the contractors. How did you get resources to fund that?
I told you, I came at the nick of time when we had a refund from the federal government, and we used that money to pay them 50% after they produce the advance payment certificate, because we don't want that resources to be plundered anyhow. And we deepen NME to make sure they perform, and then we procure the best contractors. And so we are also aware of the contending needs on our treasury, especially the refund that we are going to be paying back for the monies that we got from the federal government previously. And so that's how we got the money.
One other thing that I'm sure is of concern to you is that of water. We talked about the high debt profile, number of out-of-school children. And one other thing that I'm sure gives you concern is the number of the intensity of poverty pervading the whole nation, and of course Bauchi State no exception. And water is a very crucial
water and sanitation is our major problem. The state was overtaken by garbage when I came in, and you saw us, and I'm happy that you followed us. We were able to remove all these problems that we have, because it's just a man-made issue. We had the procurement where companies were supposed to be taking away our refuse the way we have it in Abuja, but they were not being paid. So the only thing we did was to come with a business plan or a cash flow arrangement where we are paying them. And today Bauchi is serene and it's beautiful. You don't see the garbage that you have. Pertaining to water, it has to go with saline. There was a loan of $74 million that was taken by the previous administration. Nothing was done.
What's the loan supposed to be for?
For water, provision of water in Bauchi Metropolis, because that project is supposed to change all the pipes, about 100 kilometers of pipe, not using the JRP or iron pipes. They are using ductile iron, which is the best in the world. My experience in Abuja has taught me that this is the best you can do to the people. And of course, the taps were not running, but the projects were there, they were procured, and they were not going. But they went into a frenzy, and I was able to really accentuate the procurement and to make sure that the execution of the project is on board. I am supervising every day to make sure it is done. We have already expended about $54 million out of the World Bank loan to make sure Bauchi Metropolis gets water, especially the areas where we have the periphery, where the IDPs came and they established their settlements, and there was nothing like water there. And today, I'm telling you that Bauchi, pending the execution of that, we were able to renovate all the boreholes that were built during the colonial days that were comatose, and they are really providing water provisionally. And by the time we get all these pipes in various diameters provided, they are already procured there in Bauchi, and Bauchi will have a stripe of it. But other towns like Azare, they are dependent on borehole. Nengi, Misau, I intend to do so much to make sure that we have dams, even if the dams are going to be small, to provide water to Azare. Azare is my problem. It's a town that is expanding, and they cannot continue to rely on Jama'are River through borehole to provide water for it. And of course, you can see the flooding around that area that I went to visit with your people around Zaki. Definitely, we have to deepen the provision of our water resource management.
You know, according to data from MBS, they suggest that unemployment is about 29% in the states. So, and then quality manpower to fit into all this value chain that you highlighted is very important. What is your target for job creation?
We want to do a summit, an investment summit. But before then, our human capital development plan is to make sure we free some resources from the system. All these ghost workers, we must be able to get about 20 to 30% that will be able to absorb doctors, engineers, and the rest. You can just imagine, even our Board for Public Procurement is headed by a lawyer. We don't have engineers there. So how do you deepen the provision of due process, price competitiveness? Everything is arbitrary and just done with whims and caprices. A contractor brings a quotation and you just stamp it and you give it a stamp of authority. That's not what we want to do. We have discussed with Engineer Eze, who was the head of due process in Abuja, and he's our consultant, to make sure we review all the projects that were started and to make sure we establish the institutional framework. Doing that will enable us to reduce waste so that we will be able to pay the workers that we are going to engage. The state has not employed for the last 4 years. And you can just imagine the number of graduates we are churning out into the system that are looking so disillusioned.
Now, still on the same issue of employment, on the average, if we break down the promise of Mr. President of 10 million, average 10 million Nigerians per annum, out of bringing 10 million Nigerians per annum out of poverty over the next 10 years. If we break that down to states, that's about 278,000 people per state. And if you break it down to monthly, that's about 23,000 people to be employed or at least brought out of poverty or perhaps into the employment bracket per annum, per month. Is that feasible in any way?
It's possible because I have seen some of this federal government project working, especially the social investment program. I'm very happy with it because the end power is working. At least that is the only circle and solace to the graduates, where they find some form of employment. And of course, I must always say the World Bank and the multilateral agencies are helping us. We are going to give about 100,000 youths 10,000 at least to have something that they will be getting every month. And that is through the incentivization of the multilateral agencies helping us to do away with poverty. But the federal government social investment framework program, if it is well accepted by the states and built upon by the state, definitely it will bring people out of poverty, because there are 4 components about empower, school feeding, and then the business community are being given some form of money for investment that the vice president is really supervising. It's a very good program, but I know looking at it from the broader perspective, the arithmetic we have given is just like a taste of the iceberg.
Okay, well, on that tip of the iceberg note, we'll go to break and come back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome Welcome back. Well, Your Excellency, without security, all of these plans of yours will be off the window. What are you doing to ensure that all of those bandits who move around don't come into Bauchi and the spate of insecurity rises?
Yes, we're at the verge of establishing our own security trust fund. You see, the problem, the provision of security is costly. And the security agencies must be provided with the financial assistance and equipment. And we have established a very robust relationship with all our security agencies. Right now, we have deployed about 300 troops after meeting in our Security Council because we are getting the backlog of what happened in Zamfara. Some of the bandits are moving into Bauchi. I told you the Lemebura Forest, the Yankari Forest, they have even established a settlement there, but we have really disbanded them. But the abduction, that is the frequency of it, has increased. And because of the oil and gas activity around Al-Galeri, it has really increased our security challenges. Definitely, we need to do so much. By the time we establish our security trust fund and leveraging on the corporate social responsibility of companies doing business with us and other public spirited individuals, we will be able to provide the vehicular requirements, the equipment, monitoring and evaluation, even inspection. So that Bauchi, I want it to be a model where if you come, I am so ambitious. I even want to use a lot of science and technology to make sure we detect those people that are coming with some tinge of criminality. But certainly we are not there. We cannot use the balloons. We cannot use it because I tried to use it in Abuja. But I think I will use it in Bauchi because I have the freedom to do it. Okay. So that I will make the place safe and secure for investors, for people living there. It will be a safe haven, a sanctuary, even for those that are doing Boko Haram in Borno and others. They will come and have a sieve of relief in Bauchi.
Let's end with politics. You know, Bauchi has a unique way to vote, how they vote. Because they also tell us that if you don't perform, that they will vote you out.
Yeah.
So now, you have a largely APC State House of Assembly. How were you able to resolve the crisis and work together?
We resolve our crisis, and I want to tell our brother, the chairman of APC, that politics is local. We in Bauchi, we are the home of politics. That is where we started the Bauchi discussion cycle that led to the formation of MPC. And that is where Aminu Kano was, that is where Tafawa Balewa was, and that is where Saadu Lungu was. We know our own terrain, and we are all the same people, whether APC or PDP. I was in APC before. I was very close to the president. He came and campaigned for me to enable me to defeat an incumbent governor then as a senator. And so I'm not insensitive to the fact that APC people voted for me. And therefore I had to walk in. As a politician, I must give in to take something. And that is why today I'm happy the Speaker of the House of Representatives, with their intervention, he came personally to Bauchi, and so that we have resolved our issues. And definitely, transparency, accommodation, and stakeholding is what is going to take us to the next level, because we are not going to exclude anyone, irrespective of political persuasion. As I said during my inauguration, politics is over. We have done campaign, we have made the mandate. It is not only PP that voted for me. Other parties, PRP, NNPP, and then, of course, APC voted for me because of the presence of bad governance. Some PDP, APC people went against the governor. And I must thank them, and they must do something to assure that this, and otherwise they will go against me. And I know them, I don't want to mention them, they are highly principled. So I'm under that notice that if I don't perform, if I don't take the extra mile, definitely I should be thinking of the way out in 2023.
Power belongs to the people. Ultimately, that's a lesson. Yeah. Well, Your Excellency, Bala Mohammed, the Governor of Bauchi State, thank you very much indeed for coming on, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, so there you go. That is the show today. We thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.
And I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Thank you for watching.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.